Hey, what's going on, everybody? Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I wanted to talk about 2025 and tell you my expectations for the sport of boxing as a whole. Okay. 2024 was a great year. A lot of transitions began in 2023 going into 2024. And a lot of it had to do with the business itself. Okay. Um, HBO's been gone, but Showtime is out the game now as well. And the PBC started. I guess they started business with Amazon and they started to showcase their fights there, but we didn't get a lot of cards from them, so they weren't really that relevant this year. Outside of a few cards. Um, but the biggest change in boxing has to do with Riyadh season and getting these monstrous cards with these crazy trailers and stuff like that. They've what the Saudis have done and Turkey Al Sheikh and everyone on that side have done is they definitely brought the biggest change we've seen in the sport in a very very long time. I think for many years, especially with me doing content on here, it seemed like more the same every year. You know what I mean? I remember when the PBC had first started. It came out with they started it with bringing old school back and televising on national television fights for free. At least they weren't pay per view, but they were giving us quality fights, and it just didn't last long. They had a ton of networks in the very beginning, and it didn't last. And it just became a money grab. Everything became about pay per views, and it just didn't last. But this seems like this is something solid. This Riyadh season, they are having cards at different places, um, but a lot of the cards are mainly out in Saudi Arabia, and I know a lot of people have problems with that. And I, me being American, I'm from New York, but I was always willing to travel to see fights. It's not the hugest problem with me. I think the priority for me is to get good, consistent, quality fights. I think that's more important than anything, more so than location. You know what I mean? Every now and then, you just gotta have to travel. I've traveled around the country to see fights, and I've traveled outside of the country to see fights. Um, I haven't been to Riyadh yet to see a fight. I was just thinking about going in February, but I will be out there at some point. I will make it out there. I'll make the trip out there at some point. With that being said, quality boxing is the priority. Americans can't really complain that much because Americans are not as big as into boxing as they used to be. It is what it is. So we can't be the ones to complain. Plus, when we were running the sport, um, we weren't really getting the quality of fights that we're getting right now. And what I don't want to do is go backwards. There's still going to be fighters that's going to duck fights, pull out of fights. There's still going to be terrible scorecards. It is what it is. But one thing is, I am happy with the quality of fights that we got in 2024. And I expect the same in 2025. And I love the pay per view price cuts. I know pay per view is still going to be a thing, but at least the cuts, the drop in price is major for me. As an investor into the sport, a long time investor paying for pay per views, I can only imagine the amount of money that I spent on boxing in my life. Um, I love the price cuts, and the price cuts come with better fights. It just goes to show that a lot of these fights that we were paying pay per view for, for the people that were actually paying for it, it just wasn't justified. Still in some cases, still not justified. And as a fan of boxing, first, I know I create content, but as a fan of boxing, we don't have to continue paying for fights we don't feel are quality fights. I think it's time to put pressure as a fan. Even if you're a fan of a specific, and I'm not going to tell anybody, I am in a way telling people how to spend their money. Spend your money whatever way you want to, but if you're unhappy with certain cards, or you don't feel like the quality of the main event is a good quality fight, don't pay for it. There are other fights out there that are free. There are other fights out there for a lot less money. You know what I mean? And I pay, especially if I go live. I've never been the type that's gonna sit here and stream a fight knowing that I'm eating off it. I've never done that. I've always paid. I have the receipts of every single pay-per-view that I've ever bought. I purchased them on ESPN, Showtime, The Zone, HBO when it was out. Whatever I have to do it, whatever way I do it. But for the general consumer, if it wasn't for me making content, I would not be paying pay-per-views unless they were good quality fights, and fights that I've always wanted to see. Um, you know what I mean? And I think part of the fans, we want to support our favorite boxers, but they got to support us too by giving us quality fights. There are fighters out there that are giving us good fights each and every time they step in a ring. You know what I mean? They're fighting someone at their level every single time. So enough of this cherry picking stuff. Um, we don't have to deal with the cherry picking because there's so many other good fights out there. There was a point in boxing just a couple of years ago where the majority of fights were bullshit, and then we would get a good fight in between every now and then. And sometimes those fights would be ruined with terrible judging, scoring. Um, and those will leave a bad taste in our mouths. You know what I mean? So I am happy overall with where the sport is. There's still time to see exactly how this is all gonna play out with Riyadh season, and we have to bring it up because they basically own everything. They got all the promoters together damn near. Outside of PBC, they've worked with every major promoter right now, and it seems like they're all under the same umbrella. They all still promoting and scheduling their own cards outside of Riyadh season, but these bigger major cards are on Riyadh season. Most of these promoters are working together, and most of them are on the zone now, which means most likely the price of the zone subscription is probably going to go up again at some point. I've been subscribed since annual subscriber to the zone since the very beginning. I never paid monthly at no point. Because I create content, I've been a subscriber to everything else: Showtime, um, Peacock, HBO when it was on, ESPN. ESPN doesn't seem like they're gonna renew their deal with Top Rank, so everything's gonna be on the zone. And that could be good and bad because there's certain things I prefer. And I've made videos. I've made multiple videos comparing subscriptions to different networks, just going into detail on what I dislike about each one or what I like. I think the Zone has definitely improved the app. The app definitely had issues back in the very beginning, but they've improved. I think they still can improve in certain areas. I think sometimes the commentary is a little off, uh, and other things. But I think for the most part, I'm happiest with the Zone because it's just easiest to navigate. I'm talking about the app itself. They have a good library of fights, and it's not that hard for me to find certain fights that they've broadcasted in the past. Um, so I'm looking forward to it, and plus they just giving me good fights, and the pay-per-views are not that high, so I'm happy. AI, AI and scoring. I just wanted to make a quick note. I think it should remain unofficial. I think it should just be there just like everything else. Like whenever the commentators do unofficial scoring, I think it should stay just like that. I don't know how this works. I don't know how it's created. I don't know how it's ran. Um, but what I don't want it is to be official. I know the judges are terrible sometimes. And it seems like with every major fight, there's a judge there that's clearly being paid off by the the major promoter in the fight, or maybe the bigger fighter, the bigger name in the fight. It just seems that way sometimes. I'm just gonna say it. It is what it is. There's always seems to be a card there that's completely different from the other two. Um, with big fights. I know that's an issue. I know. But I don't know, just like anything else, that can be altered as well. And I don't believe that it should be an official thing. I think it should be another unofficial thing just to look at when we're getting multiple scorecards from the judges officially, also the commentary, or whoever boxing analyst that you listen to on online or social media or whatever. You know what I mean? I think just AI and keeping it and making it official or part of the scoring is not the right thing to do. I think just like anything else, whether you have three judges, whether you have five judges, it's not going to change the outcome. We was hearing about five judges possibly for Usyk and Fury. I'm glad they kept things the way they did. Okay. And that's that. Now, as far as the fights and the divisions, to be honest, I did write a list of things that I wanted, and outside of unifications in every division, that's my one thing that I wish for the next year. Um, every year, going into a new year, I always wish the same thing. I just want more unifications. Look, let me just make this very clear. I am very happy with the amount of unifications and undisputed champions we've had over the past 5 plus years. I am very happy with this because this is for a thing that I was complaining about for a very, very long time. In the era of Adonis Stevenson, Kovalev, Andre Ward, or in the welterweight era with Floyd and Manny Pacquiao, Marquez, Tim Bradley, all of them. A lot of those guys did great things. Some of them unified, some of them won big fights. They're legends, Hall of Famers, but we wasn't getting that many. We wasn't really getting any undisputed fights, and I'm glad that we're getting them now, and we're getting them, and plus we're getting fighters that's getting undisputed in multiple divisions, which is incredible. So I am very happy. But one thing that I do will say, and certain specific divisions in the sport, I want undisputed in every division, right? But I also want, like, I want some of these divisions to, like, some of the younger guys, I'm ready for them to step up and see what they can do. Some of the older guys, I'm still waiting for them to fight each other, and just in their era, like Fury and Usyk fought twice, right? So we finally got that. We finally got an official undisputed champion. But there are still certain fights that I still want going into 2025. That's fights like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, or maybe even an Anthony Joshua against Deontay Wilder. Like, I know these guys are old. I know these guys, some of them may not be in their primes anymore, but I still think that some of these fights are major. A lot of fights happen when I compare it to the 90s when I grew up really getting into boxing. A lot of those fights happened too late too. Lennox and Tyson happened way too late. Lennox and Holyfield happened late. A lot of the big fights from them, those are still legacy fights though. When you bring up Lennox Lewis, You can't bring up the fact that he beat and stopped Mike Tyson. You know, you can't bring him up without bringing up the fact that he beat Holyfield. You can't bring up Tyson without the fact that he lost to Lennox Lewis. You know what I mean? Like, they're older. They weren't in their primes, but they still fought. And we remember it and we talk about it. And I still think that Fury losing and Joshua losing, doesn't mean anything. They're still really good. They still gave us good fights against the guys they lost to. And I still want to see those fights. Another thing is, especially with like the heavyweight division, I want, I really want someone to give Martin Bacoli a chance. I just think I really feel that he would be destructive against anybody. But it's one of two things. Like, I either A, want him to get a shot to prove that he is one of the best guys, because he's from that time at this point. It's not like he's younger. I don't know how long he's been fighting pro, but I mean, he's in the same class of or generation of Fury, Joshua Usyk, and Wilder, and all of them. He's there. He's not like with Daniel Dubois and them. He's up there. And I just would like for him to get a shot, or I would like for someone to shut his mouth, because he calls everyone out. He talks a lot. He tells all these sparring stories. If he's not legitimate, I want someone to prove that he's not, and just prove that all of this talk and his win over Gerald Anderson and all of that stuff was just a fluke. But I want the guy to get a shot. I do. Um, and it's for the newer guys, and this goes for like the heavyweight division and some other divisions as well. I'll probably name them, but I want the newer guys to show improve. Like, I want somebody to officially, like, Daniel Dubois is clearly like the champion right now. You know what I mean? He's a champ officially. So the next generation, he's already in the mix. He's already fought all the older guys, a lot of them at least. But these guys like you know, like Fabio Wardley and who's the young guy that's beating up everybody. Um, I can't think of his name right now. Moses Atama. Um, like guys like those guys, you know, I want them to get in there at some point. I want us to start really having conversations now on who's the best next heavyweight. And right now, I think Daniel Dubois is in the lead, and he has the most experience. But I want these guys to do what they got to do. And he older guy, like no different from light heavyweight. Light heavy, like we have the two same guys that's been running the division since Kovalev, Ward, and Stevenson. And these two guys already fought, but they're having a rematch next month. But in the meantime, we're really, really close to seeing who is the next king of the division. And a lot of these guys have been around for a long time. Like David Morrell and Brendan Vitas is about to fight each other. And then you still got all the fighters from the UK. Liard, Buatsi, Callum Smith. Uh, Let them fight. Like, as soon as these two guys are done, I don't think Better Be if Bivol might still be around for a little while, but Better Be if is probably not going to be around for too long. But regardless, let's see who's the next guy up. Because a lot of these guys been lingering around for a while, not fighting each other. Um, and that goes the same for every division. I would love the middleweight division to do something. Um, with being such a historical division, I would like in 2025 some kind of unification. I mean, I want that for every division. I mean, but goddamn, this division sucks. This is the worst division. It's an embarrassment of division right now. and no one fights each other there. Everyone's super scary. Everybody's very, you know, they walk around eggshells. Like they're really scary fighters over there at 160. Everybody's very picky there. Um, now I'm not dissing everyone. I gotta know Hamza's a guy that's on the come up. But outside of him, everybody's just very, very cautious on how they move there. And it seemed like everybody was trying to get Canelo and Triple G for so long, but that they forgot to fight each other. So for the Laras, for the Eubanks, for the Adamises, for the Janovics, let's make some fights. It's an embarrassing of the division. It's the worst division in the sport, in my opinion. Um, and then there's divisions like 168, where it's like, again, it's the same with heavyweights who didn't fight yet, who's been around for a minute. Let's fight, bro. It's like Andrade, what are you doing? Like you and Charlo, get it going. You know what I mean? Like you guys been around for a long time. You guys came in around the same time, 54, 60, now at 68. Fight each other. Caleb Plant, same thing. Plant, put him in the bag. Berlanga is newer. Pacheco, is newer. Mangia is not new, but he's young. He can still bounce back. Plenty of fights. All right. But I don't want to go through every division, but um when it comes to 135 and 140, which is and I'll end it at this. I'm tired of the gossip. Like these two divisions right now are the divisions with the worst fans. I think they have the worst fighters as far as mentality. Um, Too much out of the ring bullshit, too much talking, going on interviews saying this, too many fanboys, groupies. Um, I'm not gonna go into the new year just gossiping about what these guys are doing. Seriously, like this week, the topic of the week is Tank. I don't know. He's making himself look like Little Kim, like with his crazy hair. Like I really don't care. Like I ain't making content on that shit. You know what I mean? Like him and Little Kim look like. I saw his picture and I was like, I don't know what he's doing. I don't really care. He permed his hair. So what? Like, Max B is one of my favorite rappers. He permed his hair too. This guy want to come out looking crazy. Uh, he permed his hair. Whatever. Yo, if these guys ain't fighting nobody for real, like, we don't need to talk about them. You know what I mean? And that goes for all of them. Everybody. That goes for Haney. That goes for Ryan. That goes for Tank. That goes for Shakur or whoever else is there. Well, Shakur got a good fight coming up, and so does Keyshawn. Um, but if they're not doing anything, and if they're just on the internet, just doing all this talking, Tiafimo saying stupid shit in interviews, we don't need to focus on them. There's real boxers out there that's fighting legitimate fights. I mean, these guys are real boxers too, but it's like the goofiness is it's a clown show at 140 and 135. It is. And it's so much talent there. It sucks because it's those two divisions have if you look at the lineup, they're as far as talent, I would say that they're probably top two, top five. Those two divisions are probably top five in all of boxing as far as the lineup. But it's just a lot of joking around going on. So I just hope in 2025 we'll get more fights. Um, I just care about the fights. When it comes to the fans and the groupies, it's definitely going to always be the worst. But um, at the end of the day, they could make some really, really good fights in those divisions, and I hope we get them in 2025. And as far as everything else, every other division, like I said, let's just get more unifications. and I'll be happy. But overall, I'm a happy. I'm a very very happy boxing fan. And there was a point, I can't remember the year. I don't know if it was 2020. It was like the worst year of boxing ever, where we were just talking about the Glovegate thing the whole year. That was a crazy, like, I wasn't even making content at that point. It was such a bad time of boxing where the entire community was just talking about that. I think where we are right now, especially the way 2024 is, like 2024 was so lit. You have so many upsets and shocking outcomes. Like even with all the bullshit, it was very entertaining. It was very, very entertaining. Like there was so many moments. And I think that's good for the sport because it's keeping everything, even though if there's drama behind like Ryan and Devin, even with all the drama behind it, everything behind it, from the drugs and the weight and the back and forth on social media, it had everybody talking about it. So in that sense, it was good for the sport. And everybody's still talking about it. And it's been almost a year now. Um, but moments like that, moments like AJ against Daniel Dubois, you know, um, there's moments like that that's just like, damn, yo, that was crazy. It's the shock, you know what I mean? Even AJ, like, I know Francis was this MMA guy, but the knockout was so shocking. Like, yo, like those are moments where we need to keep the sport running, but we also need quality fights too. And we want to keep it clean. I don't think anybody's going to be unbiased or fair and stuff. Like, you got the commentators that's not even fair and unbiased. The promoters, everyone involved. No one's ever going to be completely fair. But I'm cool with that as long as I'm getting what I need from the sport, which I am right now, and continue getting it. I That's all I want. For the older guys, whatever fights you got left, man, you guys is 35 plus. Whatever fights people ever wanted, get it in. All right, before these new guys come and knock you out. We don't want that. We want, you know, let's get some of these older fights. And for the new guys, step up, fight, face each other. Stop waiting 5 years to build up a fight. We don't have no time for that no more. You know what I mean? Like, no more of that. Um, and that's it. That's it. Um, I guess I'll end it with this. When it comes to Crawford and Canelo, I know everyone's talking about it right now. And this week, I don't. It just sparked up the conversation this week. It seems like everyone in the boxing world is talking about it. Um, Look, I understand Crawford for wanting to take it because that's a bag, right? It's a bag for both of them. Don't get it twisted. Don't let people tell you any different. It's a bag for both of them. If Canelo fights Crawford today, I guarantee you that whatever his purse is will be bigger than any other purse he's ever had in his career. So don't let people tell you Crawford's doing it for the bag. They're both doing it for the bag if they decide to do it. That's why Canelo's not even entertaining it unless it's a certain type of money that comes with that. I want to see the fight. I do. I want to see it. But for Crawford, I would be more impressed. Let me not say that. That's not the right word. I'll take that back. I want to see him go for undisputed in a third division. To me, I would love to see that. I think win or lose against Canelo, and it's a tough hill to climb because you're moving up two more divisions after you just moved up to another division. You're in your fourth division now. if he can beat everyone at 154 or at least become undisputed at 54, that is crazy to me because I think 54 is way more dangerous than all the other three divisions he already fought at. I think if you can get through whoever's champion and beat them at 54 and become undisputed, that's like historically 3 divisions and the 4 belt era in men's boxing. That's crazy. That's crazy. Especially at 54 because it's a tricky division. Now, I'm not saying Canelo is an easier fight than that. That's what I was going to say. Canelo's not easier. It's more of a challenge to beat Canelo, in my opinion. But the reason why I think becoming undisputed at 54 is more difficult right now is because you got to deal with so many different styles. And whoever fights Crawford is going to be at their best. Madrimov that night, that herky-jerky style, it was, I know the guy don't have a lot of pro fights. I know he's a very good amateur though, but if you know boxing, you know why that fight was difficult. Because of the way the guy was fighting. And if he goes on to fight Bachram, who just showed us that he's better than whoever he was when he fought Jack Koke. All right, he beat the shit out of it 10-2. Beat the hell out of him. These guys show up for Crawford, they're going to be different. We're not going to see what we've seen before. They're going to be better than whatever. They're going to pull out all the tricks for that specific fight. So to win 2 or 3 more matches to become undisputed over just fighting Canelo and trying to beat him in one fight might be a little bit more difficult in that sense. Because you're facing different fighters with different styles. We know exactly what Canelo's going to do because we've been watching him fight for so long against so many elite fighters. But when you fight Fundora, you know, how does Crawford's style match up against him? I know he's tall. I know he's lost before, but Fundora is not a walk in the park neither. Neither is Bachram or anybody else at 154. You know, any given night, you're going to take an L. So I do want to see the Canelo fight. I do. But I really want him to become undisputed at 54, in my opinion. And I know if he happens to lose to Canelo, I know people are going to just write him off because that's what boxing fans do. It doesn't matter if you win up 2, 3 divisions. People just write you off. You know what I mean? And he might not care because the money is going to be so big. He's not going to be... The last thing I think Crawford's worried about is losing. Especially because he's confident. He thinks he's going to win anyway. But still, I just think that I want to see the 54 run first. But if there's an opportunity to fight Canelo, who's going to turn it down? You know what I mean? So that's my stance on it. All right. Either way, I'm happy. But I want to see the 54 one run a little bit more from a legacy standpoint. But I understand Crawford taking the Canelo fight because it's such a big bag. And the risk is the reward in that risk is crazy higher than what it is at trying to become undisputed at 54. You know what I mean? So, all right. So anyway, that's my video, man. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and I'll see you guys soon. All right. Peace.